Analysis of Come On, Come Back by Stevie Smith for the AQA GCSE Literature exam. Come on, come back. Incident in a future war. Left by the ebbing tide of battle on the field of Austerlitz, the girl soldier Vaudeville sits, her fingers tap the ground. She is alone at midnight in the moonlight. She is sitting alone on a round flat stone. Graded by the Memel Conference first of all human exterminators, ML5 has left her just alive, only her memory is dead forevermore. She fears and cries, "Ah me, why am I here?" Sitting alone on a round flat stone on a hummock there. Rising, staggering, over the ground she goes, over the seeming miles of rutted meadow to the margin of a lake. The sand beneath her feet is cold and damp and firm to the waves' feet. Quickly, as a child, an idiot, as one without memory, she strips her uniform off, stands and lunges into the icy waters of the adorable lake. On the surface of the water lies a ribbon of white moonlight. The waters on either side of the moony track are black as her mind. Her mind is as secret from her as the water on which she swims, as secret, as profound, as ominous. Weeping bitterly for her ominous mind, her plight, up the river of white moonlight she swims until a treacherous undercurrent, seizing her in an icy amorous embrace, dives with her, swiftly severing the waters which close above her head. An enemy sentinel, finding the abandoned clothes, waits for the swimmer's return. Come on, come back. Waiting, whiling away the hour, whittling a shepherd's pipe from the hollow reeds. In the chill light of dawn, ring out the pipe's wild notes. Come on, come back. Vaudeville, in the swift and subtle current's close embrace, sleeps on, stirs not, hears not the familiar tune, favourite of all the troops of all the armies, favourite of Vaudeville, for she had sung it too, marching to Austerlitz. Come on, come back. Right, we're analysing this poem with FLIRTS: form, language, imagery, rhythm, rhyme, tone, and subject. We start with subject. This is a poem about a future war, so it's an imagined war, and it is telling a story of a female soldier who is left on a battlefield with no memory. And it's quite a tragic tale because she dies, she drowns as she is trying to get away from this war. With the form, it's written in free verse. It's loosely a ballad form. I think, because it is a narrative. There's not a refrain, but I'll talk about that in the next slide. And each stanza, as you will see, each stanza is telling a distinct part of the story, almost like a chapter in a novel. Now, the poem is strange. I don't think there's a doubt about that, and it's unsettling in its form and structure as it tells this story. It's quite confusing, it's ambiguous, it's not clear, and the form and the free verse and so forth. I think this is reflecting Vaudeville's loss of memory and her confusion and her searching for her memories of who she is, I would imagine, and also the confusion of war, and the searching for that war is ambiguous in itself, I suppose, is Stevie Smith's message in that respect. As I said, it's loosely a ballad in that it is telling a tragic story. But there is no refrain. The title of the poem arguably could be considered a refrain, "Come on, come back," as it is repeated 3 times, but it's only repeated in that second half. It's not throughout the poem. The stanza, like a chapter in a story, tells the story. However, I think the meaning, as I said, it's ambiguous and just makes the poem confusing. So we as a reader share the confusion of the central character. Now, the language. We have references to historical events. The ML5, ambiguous. What is that meant to be? I'm sure your teachers have told you that this is an imagined chemical, chemical warfare. Okay, so again, that's referencing to chemical warfare of conflicts in the 20th century. And we also have lots of repetition, and there's use of assonance and alliteration. Now that's part of figurative language, so that overlaps with imagery, but we can discuss it here. Now the ambiguous language and the ambiguous images again add to this confusion. It adds to this unsettling effect that the poem has on the reader. We share Vaudeview's confusion, but also we search for meaning in the language, and it suggests that the poet is forcing us. The poet is forcing us to search for meaning in war. Sorry, I was trying to search for meaning in that sentence. That's not a well-constructed sentence. So don't write sentences like that in your exam. The repetition of the words and the sounds and even letters. If you look at the word Vaudeview, you have that repetition of certain letters, the V's and the U's and the E's. So it's repeating. We have a lot of repetition. It shows how conflict is repeated throughout the war. This is an imagined war, yet the references to the historical events. So Austerlitz and the Memel Conference is again, it's suggesting a historical event. Shows that war is a part of our history, it's a part of our present, and regrettably it will be part of our future. The soldier's name, as I've said, again highlights, it shows repetition, and this highlights the reprise of conflict in our world. The imagery. So we have that central image of the song. It's not referred to in the first half of the poem, but it is the title of the poem, so therefore it is central. We have images of memory loss and secrecy, and there are also these dream-like images of the moonlight. And then we have this image of our only other character in the poem, the enemy sentinel. And this is a threatening image, but it turns into a pastoral image, and I'll tell you what that's all about in a moment. So the title of the poem is shown to be a popular song for soldiers, in the same way that it's a long way to Tipperary and we'll meet again and pack up your troubles in an old kit bag. They were popular songs of the First and Second World War, and they are used in wartime to build morale. To kind of remind soldiers of home and to comfort them. And also the title of the song, it suggests in itself a return to home, come on, come back, and returning to normality. The images of memory and secrecy, well, Vaudeview has lost her memory, and then we have the secrecy, her mind becomes a secret to her, and it just adds to the confusion. Secrecy suggests espionage in a way, and a sinister aspect of warfare. And certainly in the 20th century, espionage and secrecy became very much part of the dialogue of war. Particularly the Cold War. It was that took up most of the 20th century. It was a war without any battles. It was an ideological war, and it was fought through the likes of James Bond going over to these foreign countries and stealing their secrets. Well, not really James Bond though, but you know what I mean. So spies would go over and steal secrets, and it became part of the dialogue of war. So where are we? The secrecy suggests this sinister aspect, but Vaudeview's memory loss could also indicate how we, as a society, we seem to lose our memory. Again, something that William Golding explored in Lord of the Flies. Those of you that have studied that for your novel, we kind of for your exam, we seem to forget the conflicts that we put ourselves through. World War I was the war to end all wars, and then World War II came about. Shortly after it, and World War II ended with the start of the Cold War. So there's this idea that we can't escape it, and we seem to forget our past, and we don't remember our past, and because of that, we will continue to repeat our mistakes, and that is why war and conflict will always be an indelible part of our future. The guard. At first, it's quite threatening. An enemy sentinel. It suggests menace, suggests a threat. However, he's quite passive. He sits and waits for Vaudeville. He doesn't hunt her down. He sits and waits, and whilst waiting, he whittles out a pipe. Okay, so he's with his penknife. He is chipping away at a stick or something. He's whittling out a shepherd's pipe, and this is a pastoral image. Pastoral, it means relating to a shepherd, and a shepherd, of course, looks after. We call our heads of house at Glyn, but they're heads of year as well in other schools. We call that the pastoral system, because that's where we that's the system in the school which that cares for the students, looks after them. It's not just the academic teaching of the facts, the figures, and inspiring you to learn, etc., etc. It's about looking after, and we see that this enemy sentinel is actually not as threatening as might first appear, and this is highlighting how war, how conflict can distort our perception of how we see things and people, and really we don't see things with clarity. The rhythm and rhyme, well, it's written in free verse, and it's as talked about in the form, and as you probably heard as I was reading out, it is difficult to read. There is some internal rhyme. There is some end rhymes as well. Certainly in the first half, and the most notable is the fact that the last two stanzas in the first half of the poem. So the first in the first three stanzas, the last two lines rhyme. So the use of free verse and the lack of the consistent rhyme scheme just disorientates the reader, I think, and it's difficult to read as it is to understand. And I think this is a comment on war itself. War is difficult to understand. If you think about it, the nature of war is disorientating, and confusing, and it's difficult to find a reason for warfare. The last two lines of the first three stanzas, this is when Vaudeville is alive, when she has come out of her, she is left after the battle, and I think this is her reflecting how she is searching for answers. She is searching for meaning. She is searching for an order. She is searching for patterns, and the rhymes reflect that. However, the poem progresses, the rhyming ends, and of course in stanzas 4 and 5, Vaudeville dies as she enters the water, and she's drowned in those stanzas. Now the tone, well, the poem ends in tragedy. Certainly for Vaudeville, she dies, but her death is described as a lover, and we have a sombre, a mournful tone to the poem, but we also have a fatalistic tone to the poem. In other words, one that doesn't really give much hope. It's full of despair, I think. So we will end here with our analysis of the tone. Vaudeville is it's much more tragic, her fate, so that her death is much more tragic because she has already survived a war. Her life has been damaged beyond repair. However, she was still alive, and we are left with sadness because we are told that she will never hear the song, or she will neither sing it. So this is a sad end. However, Her death is described as amorous. It's described as an embrace, suggesting that Vaudeville welcomes death, and that she is escaping an awful life. And it's because of this that I think that the poem is fatalistic. Stevie Smith is saying that life is repeatedly damaged by conflict of humankind, and that Vaudeville's death is an escape from the horrors of conflict.